Former U.S. President Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 4 criminal charges over his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Tuesday's indictment marks the 3rd criminal case against Trump since he left office. He's accused of conspiracy to defraud the United States and obstructing an official proceeding. The most serious charge carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Trump, who's the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination, denounces his latest indictment as election interference and persecution.
This is a very sad day for America, and it was also very sad driving through Washington, D.C. and seeing the filth and the decay and all of the broken buildings and walls and the graffiti. This is not the place that I left. It's a very sad thing to see it. When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America. This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot. So if you can't beat him, you persecute him or you prosecute him. We can't let this happen in America. Thank you very much, everyone.
Arise U.S. correspondent Eric Ham sent this update from the federal courts in Washington, D.C.
They say the 3rd time is the charm. Well, today, Donald Trump, for a 3rd time, was arraigned in a courtroom for a bevy of charges against him, this time for his role in the fateful insurrection that took place on January 6, 2021. We saw a raucous crowd out here today, some supporting Donald Trump, others not in support of Donald Trump. But of course, the question remains, will Donald Trump be held accountable? Can the United States survive a former president who is also the leading candidate for the Republican presidential nomination on trial for attempting to overthrow the government? The United States will go through a stress test the likes of it has not done in centuries. Will it survive? These are questions that will only be answered in this courtroom and at the ballot box in November 2024. I'm Eric Ham in Washington for Rise News.
Thank you, Eric. Rufai, Donald Trump, 3rd time a charm?
3rd time a charm. But is it really charming that a former president has desecrated the seat of presidency in America? Wow, America, we hail thee, the bastion of democracy, now the bastion of also hypocrisy. Okay, where do we start? This is the 3rd indictment against Trump. He has gone through a litany, he'll still go through more. There are many more set up for him. But as all of this happened, what happens is the fact that he keeps pushing towards the nomination. Now Trump is doing 54% on opinion polls. Let me use the American time. He has totally shellacked Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is not in the game any longer. In fact, some Republicans and super PACs are thinking of supporting the likes of Tim Scott and some other people out there. Trump has got this in the bag. All this indictment come before the very first debate that will be happening this month, the Republican field debate. The only person really attacking Trump in the Republican field is Chris Christie, former New Jersey governor. But how far can this attack go on Trump? Trump has a solid base. Most of the opinion polls now are pushing Trump against Biden in national elections, but it's neck and neck. Concerning this one was the January 6th January 6th debacle that happened, insurrection in America. And the fact that they were most of also his lawyers, the likes of Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, that were inciting and spreading falsehoods. In fact, Giuliani has sort of like played a quid pro quo in another case as regards some electoral officers in Atlanta, where those ones charged Giuliani for the lies he peddled, how it really affected their lives, how they were threatened, and Giuliani really accepted it. And it's just funny how Giuliani has fallen down the line. This was an American hero after 9/11. This was a man that fought the mob in New York and some other things like that. But the question is, will this stick? A lot of people and analysts have said probably it will not stick because it keeps growing in the base. And one thing is certain. This is setting up the 2024 elections in America. up for being the most divisive election in American history, because it's going to be a fight to finish. And alert, if care is not taken, it might even go up to violence. You might see what happens in African elections in that elections. Because both parties are rearing at themselves. There are for some that say, oh, Trump will never win. His base is even more energized by the day. Why I said it's become the bastion of hypocrisy is the fact that, yes, on one part, the rule of law is fighting Trump, at least getting this indictment, but also, this is also energizing his base. And some people can't just see through the lies of Donald J. Trump. They can't just see through his hypocrisy. They can't just take the facts of the matter for what they are, and they just think, oh, this is a witch hunt. And that's why all of this is happening. But let's see how it pans out. I don't think this will stop Trump. And probably Trump will make a great showing. Although at some point, some people are predicting he might win. Some are saying, perish that idea, he will not win. But Joe Biden should be careful, because a lot of people are also now going ahead to say they task Joe Biden as an old candidate. What's the age difference between Joe Biden and Trump? Maybe a couple of years. Trump is a man in his late 70s going to 80s. Joe Biden is in early 80s. But they keep saying Joe Biden is old, and they see Trump with vigor. And when America starts to say a man is old, he's got consequences. I rest my case.
Okay. 4 count charges in the magistrate court of Washington, D.C. yesterday before Judge Musilau Pashaya. What are these 4 counts? 1, conspiracy to defraud. 2, conspiracy to obstruct official proceedings. 3, actual obstruction of official proceedings. And number 4, conspiracy against the rights of citizens. All of this distilled from the 45-page indictment report prepared by Jack Smith, who is the special counsel and investigator in this case. Now, this is the 3rd criminal charge in 4 months against former President Trump. But of all the charges, this is probably the most serious. And if convicted, he faces the possibility of a prison term, as he also faces the possibility of a 20-year prison term. In the other criminal charge, in which it was alleged that he tampered with classified records and also business records, to protect himself in other cases. So this is very important, because this latest charge is the most serious of all the 3 previous charges. And of course, it's been established long before now that President Trump will be the first American president that will find himself in this kind of situation. So it's a major moment for the United States. Now, if a president is facing the possibility of conviction, does it mean he cannot run for election? No. We have had 2 previous cases in the past of presidents who were, former presidents who were convicted and who still ran for election, but in any case, they lost. What are the issues in this case? What special counsel Jack Smith has to prove is to establish that President Trump willingly, knowingly, tried to upturn the verdict of the people of the United States. That's the serious offense. And that he collaborated with some people. The 45-page indictment named 6 co-conspirators. But since it's a criminal charge, what will be, at play here will be intent. In a criminal case, there are 2 aspects. There is what is called mens rea and actus reus. Now, mens rea is the mind to commit the offense. That's the intent. And I guess basically that's what the prosecution will have to prove, that in fact he had the mind. And if you see the indictment document, that's what Jack Smith tries to prove, providing timelines and what Trump said, inciting people against the verdict of the American people. Now, if he's not able to prove that, the line that is being told by Trump's lawyers is that he is protected under the First Amendment and that he has a right to free speech. But the prosecutor is going to argue that this is not about right to free speech. This is an attempt to derail the democratic process in the United States, and that it's not a cautionary tale that a crime has been committed. What is the other issue here? The other issue here is the time frame within which the trial is likely to take place. John Lauro, one of the counsel to President Trump, is saying you can't have a speedy trial. You can't invoke the Speedy Trial Act to say we must go to trial within 90 days. And his key argument is that, look, it took the Biden administration 3 years to investigate to reach this point of indictment, and that you cannot do it in 90 days. However, what has happened yesterday at the magistrate court is that the magistrate has adjourned the case to August 28 to the court of Judge Chuktan, who is going to take over the case. Now, the interesting thing here is that this will be around the time that the Republicans will be having their first major convention, which is slated for their debate, which is slated for August 23. So in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So you can understand where the lawyers are coming from, whether that will affect the chances of candidate Trump. However, Trump says he's very confident. He has pleaded not guilty. He says he has done no wrong. He says this is persecution. And his position has strengthened his support base. All the Republicans are hailing him. They are behind them. They say this is persecution. At the same time, the Democrats are very happy with the outcome in court and the fact that, Trump is in the dock, although he was looking very gloomy yesterday. So this is a very polarizing, divisive, development in American politics as America, prepares for the next major polls. Now, the magistrate judge yesterday has told Donald Trump to respect local law and not to discuss the facts of the case with witnesses or any other person, because that would be prejudicial to the case. We're asking Donald Trump to shut up. And that will look like a tall order, because he's a man who talks privately, publicly, on social media, short of giving him a gag order. That order appears to be advisory. Let's see whether Trump will keep to it. But there's probably a lesson here, for the key players in American democracy, because what we often say around here is that, it can't happen in America. Yeah, many things have happened in the United States that people who don't understand that system will say, it cannot happen in America. So we live in a world where ambition, greed, conflict, all these are basic human values that you can encounter in any jurisdiction, whether it's America or it's Niger or it is Burkina Faso. Don't let me say Nigeria.
All right, so there are many questions around this. As has already been established, this is perhaps one of the biggest trial cases that the United States would witness in centuries. And as you would imagine, not just Americans are interested in this case, but the world is watching. As has been described, the bastion of democracy, would they protect that status? How will the courts rule in this particular case? Of course, we cannot preempt that. We will leave that and we'll be following closely with the judgment. But a few questions this morning. Number one is, can former President Donald Trump be stopped? This is because his supporters and defense lawyers have said that this is an election witch hunt, political witch hunt, and so they're trying to gag or lock up the main contender to the Democrats in the next election of November 2024. Therefore, they're doing this, they're defending Donald Trump in defense of the American people, that it is just to stop President Donald Trump, who has garnered more popularity and perhaps support from people because of this particular view that it's a slight on democracy. It is bullying by the Democrats in terms of trying to keep and stop former President Donald Trump. So can he be stopped? The second is that the second question I'd like to ask, ask this morning, according to Donald Trump himself, is that will he get a fair trial in Washington, D.C.? He had raised that concern, especially citing the reason being that Washington, D.C. is a Democrat stronghold. Therefore, he's actually asking, when he tweeted on his Truth Social just before his appearance in court, and that goes to answer Dr. where he says, would he keep quiet? I doubt that very much. He's still speaking, and I don't know who can keep Donald Trump and his truth away from Truth Social. He asked that the court case be moved to West Virginia, where he feels he would get a better and fairer hearing. Will that be granted? That would beg to, we'll find out in the next few days. I doubt it very much, even though he's opposed that and his supporters have opposed that. The next question is around, obviously, the conversation around his main defense, which would be his free speech protected by the First Amendment. Would that hold water in court in terms of the fact that he has free speech? Now, the slight on this is that what the prosecution is saying is that he deliberately misled the American people, knowing well in their submission that he did not win the elections, that he deliberately told lies and falsehood. So it brings again this conversation around free speech and how free is speech, especially if speech it's not based on truth, it's not fact, it's lies, and can provoke what happened on the 6th of January 2021. And so it is his role in what he did, in terms of the insurrection by his supporters who stormed Congress so that they wouldn't ratify Joe Biden's election. So these are certain questions that in the next few days we'll get to ask and hopefully get a response to. But America, being that symbol of democracy in the world, would want to protect what it views. But they also have a fine line as well, because within America, pro-Trump Americans are saying he must get a fair hearing. This is a witch hunt, and they would not take it because it's also, in its own way, a slight on democracy. The drama plays out. Let's see what would happen in court, and very importantly, what President Donald Trump would be truthing on his Truth Social platform. We'll move on to the next story. The governing All Progressives Congress has a new national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje, who was chosen at the party's 12th National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja. It's first since the presidential election. Former Senate spokesperson Bashir Ajibola was chosen as National Secretary. Arise correspondent Indi Emalgo reports.
We must find a way to satisfy the yearnings of the poor.
A very upbeat President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, quite adamant on the necessity for the removal of fuel subsidy on the occasion of his first address to the National Executive Committee meeting of the party.
I don't want to go through the question of subsidy any longer. I've made a broadcast consistent with that principle and belief.
The president, while commending the National Working Committee for a job well done in holding forth for the neck, said he brought with him the renewed hope mantra to fulfill the dreams and aspirations of both the party faithful and Nigerians in general.
I brought before you the renewed hope to fulfill your dreams and the dreams of our founding fathers, to be sure that Nigeria remains the focal point of our foreign and domestic policy.
Describing the just concluded 2023 elections as free and fair, Tinubu said that whoever cannot accept the result does not deserve the joy of victory.
Those who cannot accept the result of a free and fair election they do not deserve the joy of victory.
The high point of the meeting was the appointment of Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, former governor of Kano State, as the chairman of the party, and Senator Ajibola Bashiru, former Senate spokesperson, as a national secretary.
Please sit down. With boundless gratitude for the confidence placed in me by leaders and members of our party, and with an absolute resolve to honor that trust, I humbly accept my appointment as the chairman of our party.
The governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, who doubles as the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, berated those he called fifth columnists for employing lies and undemocratic means to discredit the 2023 elections and INEC.
I would therefore want to move a motion of implicit confidence on Independent National Electoral Commission and the conduct of 2023 general election as our position and as a reaction to the blackmail that has been trending both the social media and the electronic media.
Earlier in his opening remarks, the acting chairman of the party and a ministerial nominee, Abu Kyari, alluded to the purpose of the NEC meeting.
This NEC meeting is therefore convened to purposely address two main issues, namely, A, the appointment of external auditors of the party, and B, the filling of the existing vacancies of the national chairman and the national secretary.
Now that the APC has a substantive chairman who has promised to, among other things, promote party unity, maintain internal democracy, and carry out reforms which includes the establishment of a progressive institute to teach members the tenets of internal democracy, it's expected that the leadership will now focus on harmonizing its activities to fulfill its promises to Nigerians. Ndi Amugo, Arise News.
As already been speculated, it's now confirmed that former governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje, is the new chairman of the APC.
Yes, I mean, we saw this coming. At least this will lay to rest all of that back and forth between the former chairman and the president, because the president must hold sway in his party. I'll yield the floor on this because we'll have further conversations, so we'll be able to exhaust all the questions there and for the wanted time.
All right.
Well, the president said, the 2023 general election will qualify as the most credible ever in the history of Nigeria, regardless of the fact that, there are cases, there are matters before the court of law, and that anybody who does not accept that should not expect to enjoy the joy of victory. Well, that's a controversial point. The reason people are at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal is because they are questioning the credibility of the election. He, however, admitted that there are challenges and that his government is committed to addressing those challenges, which is part of what he has been trying to do, either on the local front or in the international front. And then he talked about party unity, and not just unity within the party, but party generally, and his commitment to serve and deliver. Well, this is a National Executive Council meeting of the APC. That's what he will say. He will thank the team, he will praise his party members, and he will give them hope, renewed hope. That same renewed hope, all the people protesting in Jalingo, in Ibadan, in other parts of Nigeria, they are raising questions about that renewed hope, that, they are looking for it, they've not seen it. Then, of course, the high point was the emergence of Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje as a national chairman of the party. And he promised internal democracy, which is something that is a major issue for our political parties. He also talked about unity and the need for the APC to show good example for the rest of the country. Well, that remains to be seen. PDP and Labour Party, they've condemned, what happened in APC yesterday. Well, the question is, every time the neighbor is doing something, they go and jump on the fence and they are looking across. I don't know whether PDP or Labour Party are in a position to dictate to the APC how they manage their own affairs, So the internal democracy that Chairman Ganduje was talking about, that probably he's not going to do it in PDP or Labour Party. He was talking about his own party. Anyway, that's just about it.
Yeah, well, I'll just say that, as it has already been mentioned, we'll be having this conversation in detail with our guests later on. But just to say that there's still other vacancies within the National Working Committee that the National Legal Advisor had resigned. The National Women's Committee, the National Women's Leader is currently being screened or has been screened to become a nominee, to become a minister. We also have a vacancy with the National Deputy Chairman North and also Vice Chairman Northwest. So there are other, key positions to be filled in the National Working Committee of the APC. But a few questions around Dr. Ganduje Abdullahi, who's still facing investigation currently. We'll be asking those questions in the course of today's show.